This is Stir.
So we like to keep things casual and light. And I think it's fun how you even describe your name. So how do you tell people how to say your name?
So it's a panda sitting on a log, and his name is Lou. And a good friend and colleague of mine has me in her phone now with a panda emoji, a log emoji, and a toilet emoji. I'm not sure what that says, but it does make people understand how to say an 11-letter name.
Absolutely. Is the spelling similar when you kind of explain it? Exactly.
It is.
So if you're looking to find them, just use your emojis. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So a casual question for you, just real quick. If you could be any fictional character, who would it be right now?
If I had to be a fictional character, that's a great question. I might have to steal one from my good friend Nick Castellanos of the Philadelphia Phillies when he said Scooby-Doo. I think Scooby-Doo's got so many great powers that people don't really think about. That why wouldn't he be a great character to be?
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna willingly steal that one.
Raggy. Is your impression as good as the character?
No, there won't be any impressions.
Fair enough. Okay. Another question I have is, what is your daily, morning routine or nightly routine look like? How do you get into Keith mode?
Good question. So Keith mode usually starts regardless of what the day brings by making sure that I have myself in the right headspace to take on what the day is. So usually the night before we'll know kind of a rundown of what the next day's schedule is, because it usually gets determined by, do I have to wear pants or not? So what that means is, in my role, a lot of times we're out in the field, and where a lot of people think in the field, they think of sales reps. Well, I'm sometimes in the field, in a park. So it is acceptable for me to be wearing shorts some days if we're, working an event in a park or possibly cleaning out storage. So it kind of starts with the wardrobe. And it can range from, park attire, as in shorts and dry fit shirts, to full suits, depending on if we've got, an alliance event or possibly a community appreciation award. So it really all starts with, do I have to wear pants or not? Once we determine pants or not, then it's usually a matter of getting into the office and kind of doing my initial routine for the day, which is prioritization of what's my big three. Making sure that those big three are completed for the day and at least prioritized and scheduled, going through our project management tool, task management, and making sure those things are all assigned out, updated on, and then really just attacking the calendar, whether it's things that are booked externally or internally with myself. And at that point, then I just kind of follow the calendar. Next thing you know, it's about 5:30, if not 6 or 7, if we've got an after work event, and it's time to go back home.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I heard a couple of different things, and there's a lot of nuggets I would take from that personally. But one of the ones I would want to dive into more is, you say you tackle your big three, or you figure out what your big three is. Do you kind of assemble those? I've heard a lot of different people describe it as big rocks and little rocks, or big pebbles, little pebbles, or there's different ways to go about it. What's your way of looking at, okay, this is the most important thing versus casual, and then how does that intertwine with after work events?
Good question. So in my role, being a CEO of multiple organizations, board member of multiple organizations, I never want to be what stops production. So a lot of times my big three will be, what's the next step we have to take on any given deliverable to make sure that I'm not the person or entity that's holding things up.
Absolutely.
I notice, because I work that way, most of my day is spent wondering what's the next thing that's coming that I'm inbound, or we even use a tag in our task management called pending third party. And at any given time, I would probably say 80% of the things I have to do are pending third party.
Yeah.
But for me, I try to have one personal, one my business, and one, community activities related in terms of those big goals each day. So if the day gets away from me, did I at least accomplish something to move myself forward personally, my business professionally, and our community nonprofit professionally?
Yeah, I love that. It's a great way to kind of keep yourself balanced as a person overall. And like you said, you're tackling a little part of what makes us diverse every single day. I want to reel us into Cowork specifically. What kind of brought you into the Cowork atmosphere? How did you hear about it, and what made you want to join in on this organization?
Good question. So between 2010 and 2016, my professional career led me to a company that worked in a lot of co-working spaces because a lot of their prospective clientele worked out of WeWorks Industrious' larger scale workspaces. We had a national partnership with one of them. So I got to visit a lot of them around the country.
Yeah.
And I would say to people, wouldn't this be cool if we had this in Lakewood Ranch? And I most commonly got laughed at. So when I did, I was like, I must be onto something because I'm getting laughed at a lot.
Right.
So luckily, the company that I was with was in the process of going public. So once we finished going public, I knew I now had the financial wherewithal to go out on my own and bring my vision to life. So the initial business I started is actually an investment firm. And the very first mission of that business was to invest in young entrepreneurs.
Wow.
So at that time, back in 2015, I met a young woman who was a student at USF as a senior, trying to figure out her next path. And we had a lot of various potential investments that we could go into. And the first one that really got her attention was this one. So within about 3 months, we had a business plan done. I was still working my full-time job. After another couple months, it was about time to make a decision. And the decision was made, let's go all in on this. Wow. And we opened about 58 days later.
That's insane. I mean, from concept, basically, in less than 2 months overall, essentially, you guys are off and running with something that's been here ever since. One of those impressive parts about it is the fact that, as you said, people were laughing about this idea when you first kind of brought it in. But there was a young person that you were working with who immediately saw the value in this space. And so that already tells me that you have an easy connection with people in a different generation, perhaps. I mean,
I was 36, she was 19. So yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, there you go. So, I would put, you look like a millennial to me, so I wouldn't put you in.
Well, that was about 6 years ago, so do the math.
There you go. Yeah. So, and I'm a millennial myself, and a lot of times I talk with people who are, much older than me and then much younger than me. And one of the things that I feel like the older people take from our conversations is, at least from my connection with the younger people, I'm elevating their ideas, and these things kind of become this entity that we all push forward together. You're involved with moving young entrepreneurs forward. In what ways do you continue to use this space to do that since its inception?
Well, we've been lucky in that we came in this space almost 8 years ago. April will be 8 years. And during that time, we've seen over 300 businesses come and go. Wow. There's still about 120 here today in various levels of membership. So we've interacted with them in various different ways. My favorite story would be that we had a small community nonprofit of one employee that started here called Lakewood Ranch Community Activities. And for about a year, my predecessor sat right over there, right outside my office. So wow. I got to learn about the organization, the mission. I was able to volunteer at many events. And we were out to lunch in January 2017, and she gave me the news, which was, hey, I'm leaving. Wow. And within about 5 seconds, we had the same idea, which was, why don't I apply for that job? And here we are 7 years later, as of yesterday. It was my 7-year anniversary. So that's
congratulations and happy anniversary.
Thanks. When I say that this place can bring people jobs, well, that's a good example. It brought myself a job, and not just a job, but a career. That's my passion.
I love that.
Beyond that, we've invested in about 9 businesses over the past 7-8 years in business, about 6 of them passively, 2 of them actively. Wow. So when people have come in here with either a concept or something that needed consulting, support, funds, we've been able to help them at various levels. And some of them have exited, others are still here, others we're still involved in.
I like that. So would you say that's kind of like one of the working models as a whole?
Absolutely.
So go into that a little bit more if you don't mind. Just like what it would look like if I came in and I had this idea, or if I just want to work in a quiet space, like what's the difference? Sure.
So we have a couple different membership levels at Cowork, depending on what someone needs. The most common of which is our virtual membership, where this provides someone that's just starting out, or maybe works out of a truck or works out of their house, the ability to have a professional address here on Main Street at a $49 cost per month. That's our most common.
Okay.
Above and beyond that, people that need physical space, we have some private offices as well as some dedicated desks. That's a little bit more elevated investment per month. And then our parent company, UTC Venture Group, has offered startup mentoring, consulting, and angel funding for the right business here and there, as we've had our almost 9 years in business for that.
Absolutely. I mean, you shared your favorite story. what would be something that is catching your attention right now? You don't have to say any names or any like specific products or anything like that, but what is something that you're currently seeing that's giving you that same kind of excitement, if there is anything?
I think the growth since COVID, COVID was an interesting time in this business because we kind of are like a gym. So by March 20th, 100% of our Cowork members quit because they had no reason to stay on a month-to-month basis. We were lucky enough to be sustained by, we had a lot of corporate clients that had either dedicated desks or offices, as well as, a couple nonprofits that were still, having operations going. But the growth since probably mid 2021, specifically around like our virtual offering, as businesses realized they don't need these offices, 800, 1,000, 1,200 square feet. They just need a place to meet maybe once a week, once a month, a place to get mail, and most importantly, a place to look professional. So that's really shown our growth. We're at an all-time high in memberships now. We're currently closed to new memberships because we're kind of at our capacity. So basically someone has to leave before we can let someone else in. So we usually are keeping a pretty decent waiting list.
I like that. So you at least have some sense of like, if I come to work with Cowork or bring my organization to Cowork, not every single person is going to be able to use the same address and same.
Yeah. And you can see like a day like today, there's about 9 to 10 people here, depending on the time of day. There can be 4, another time of day there can be 13. And we try to keep it to a quiet roar. So that's why we try to keep that number, even if they're not all actively in office, we try to keep that number at a reasonable amount. So it allows for the shared spaces like the conference rooms to be available when people need them and they're not always running into rooms being booked.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I would imagine as a kind of leader in this space, in and of itself, you have so many different types of businesses, organizations that are coming
literally
together,
everything,
and so many different like personality types. I imagine coming in here. How do you facilitate that? What's your strategy for yourself, and then what advice would you give for others? Maybe?
So my way to facilitate it is to not facilitate it. When we first opened, we had a phrase that we said, "This is the unoffice." I put my blood, sweat, and tears into building this space because I didn't want to go back to another corporate entity. And the only reason I was able to take the role I took is because I'm still sitting in the exact same chair I was before I had the job. So we still work out of here, which is kind of cool. So to that end, for me, it's more of like letting it happen organically. And like, if I see a connection between two members that might be able to help one another, of course I'm going to make it. But a lot of times I just kind of sit back and let the members do their own thing. And then all of a sudden, we'll be in here and I'll see a former member sitting here and he's going to meet with a current member. And I was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, I'm meeting with Kevin." I'm like, "Oh, cool. You guys are friends. I had no idea." I'm like, "Why are you still here? You're not a member." But it was kind of funny in that moment because I'm like, "Are you supposed to be here?" And I realized he was just meeting another member. I'm like, well, of course they would know each other. They were both members here. Why would I not put that two together? But you get to 125 businesses, people are in and out. You don't even realize it. I'm like, oh yeah, they know each other.
That's cool. Have you ever seen the movie Biodome?
No.
Oh man, it's a classic from the 90s.
Check it out.
Pauly Shore is in it, but essentially the idea, one of the concepts is these two guys are supposed to be scientists in this dome, and it's like perfectly generated space where plants grow perfectly, air is perfect, blah, blah, blah. And they're kind of like goofballs that come in and kind of change up the flow of the place. And the whole idea was this experiment of keeping a perfect environment. How do you deal with either a situation or a person or something like that might be throwing off your homeostasis, your perfect environment?
I kind of live through it every day. It's kind of the beauty of an open office, open floor plan workspace with all glass walls. Transparency is kind of in the ethos here. So you're going to hear things you don't need to hear sometimes, but other times, we're very AirPod friendly. So for me, it's more of just putting myself in my zone, whether it means like putting both headphones in, shutting a door. It's kind of like I'm closed off if I have both headphones on. 90% of the time I have one headphone on. So one is still open to the team or members that, have a question or a concern. For me, if I need to get to that place, it's usually via AirPod.
I like that. You put AirPod in and you're out of the way.
Both in.
Yeah.
One's always in, but a second one, I'm closed.
There it is.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I get that. And I'm in my zone. I'm locked in. I feel like I'm a computer hacker at that point.
I can see that.
So another question I just want to get to know, or let the world know a little bit more about just you personally, because you are a super fun guy. It's very evident, even just the way you answer questions. But who gets to enjoy you, in your personal life? wife, kids, etc.?
Yeah,
If
so
you care to share?
yeah, I'm fortunate to have a beautiful wife now, going on about 8 months.
Wow, congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you very much for that. We share a 25-year-old, I call my bonus daughter,
There you go.
that lives with us as well. So that's, a new challenge in inheriting a 25-year-old that I didn't have anything to do with raising other than the past 4 years. Luckily, one thing we all have in common is we all play volleyball. So we met on the volleyball court. I actually met her daughter before I met her first.
Wow.
So that has been a way for us to do things kind of as a family. So there's been tournaments where, 3 of the 4 players on the team, I'm like, all right, fam jam.
Yeah,
there
it is.
So that's good. So we have that. We all share a passion like real estate. My spouse also is a real estate agent. So that helps us to get involved in seeing what's out there. My bonus daughter is interested in interior design. So there's a lot of HGTV going on in my house. It's about 95% of the content that we consume, between the hours of 6 and midnight.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I would say volleyball, real estate, design, that's kind of the themes of things that go on around our home.
I like that a lot. So you keep active, keep your brain active. You're constantly moving, it seems. I'm inspired by you constantly, just saying.
Well, thank you.
The way you kind of just manage yourself and you keep level head and always kind of have a light to yourself when you're in a room. I noticed that you have a uncanny ability to just kind of connect with people on just like a normal human level. For the people who get nervous at networking events and stuff like that, especially, it's where I see you're not a problem for you. What advice would you give to those people who struggle to kind of get out there and meet people coming from a space like this, especially?
I think the best advice I can give is to maybe be a little bit vulnerable in the moment and to say that you may not realize this, but I get nervous going to networking events. And for me, I think it's more of being, part of a community. So I'll give a good example. One of my favorite possessions is my business alliance name tag. So if I'm at a business alliance event, there's a 99.9% chance you're going to see me with my name tag on, to the point where if I forget it, I will probably turn around and get it. And I've thought a lot about that and realized that really what it comes down to is like, this is what makes me feel like I belong.
Yeah.
And maybe that's silly or cheeky, but, so for someone that's like new to an organization, like if you don't have that tag, make sure you have your tag, right? Because it's the simplest, lowest hanging fruit of opportunity to meet and connect with someone. For me, it's also easy because without specifically the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance, none of the things we've talked about today happen. I don't have this space. I don't have this job. I don't have any of the awards I've won. I don't have any of the staff I've had. Almost every one of them I can tie back to something that has come from the Alliance since 2015 to now in the past almost 10 years of membership.
Absolutely.
So just knowing the power of what it can bring you, I think should inherently make it a little bit less nerve-wracking for someone. But what I do worry for some people is when they join something like that thinking they need to hit a quota this month or next month or this quarter. I'm like, this is not going to work for you. So if you have that pressure, you need to probably find some like paid marketing or maybe a company like a Jinto to help you.
Right.
But if you let it be organic and let those people help you over 3, 6, 9, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it's going to come back tenfold from what you give to it. So just knowing that if you go in with your authentic self, know that other people might be nervous. Even the person who you've seen on stage 8 times this year might also be nervous. I get excited to go up there and then I'm staring, I'm like, oh boy. And I'm big on not having notes too. So I feel that I do worse when I have notes. So sometimes they try to script me and I'm like, can I just have some bullets? So just know that most people are nervous, even chairs, even, people that are committee leads. It's just natural. You're in a room of 300 people sometimes. So I would just say, remember, be yourself, go in with the low hanging fruit of, have the name tag on. It gives someone an easy opportunity to ask you a question. And when in doubt, ask questions, listen, hear, how can I help you in whatever it is you're doing? So if you've got nothing else to offer, ask how you can help them. And then invariably it'll come back to you.
Beautifully said. Absolutely beautifully said. I want to get us out of here. I don't want to hold you up too much longer.
No problem.
But a good question, I feel like, as a person with an odd name, Javar, easy to mispronounce when you just see it. What's been the funniest or oddest way someone's pronounced your name that you heard?
Oh boy, there's so many. I don't even know which one to pick. This, I think, one time I heard like pandemonium, Cindy Lou Who. I don't know where that comes from, but there's been a lot of them. Those are the two that probably resonate the most because I think both are over 10 years old and I clearly still remember them. First grade was a challenge, obviously, when, the people after you were like Smith.
Yeah.
But, I think there's always, people just don't try. I think when people see 11 letters, they don't even attempt. Where it is fairly phonetically easy to say. Mm-hmm. But I've also learned in life that a lot of things that I think are easy, a lot of people think are difficult. Mm-hmm. So when in doubt, spell it out, kind of just look through and, every time someone asks, how do you pronounce it? I won't answer. I'm like, what do you think? I'm like, it's not a trick question. I just try. Like, don't just, maybe it's a little hanging fruit for them to ask me that.
Right, yeah.
But I'm going to put it right back to them and say, what would you think how to say it? And 9 times out of 10, they're pretty close. Yeah,
it goes back to that vulnerability too. It's kind of asking them to be vulnerable.
Half my family says Pandeloglou, half my family says Pandeloglou. I couldn't even tell you what's right at this point.
Fair.
So, that's pretty 50-50. So if they say one of those, I give it to them.
Yeah, well, as a Javier, Hajj, however many times it's been said incorrectly, I can understand where that comes from. Well, again, it's been a wonderful opportunity to sit in here with you and just getting to hear some of your thoughts on the way you kind of go about how you carry yourself.
Thank you.
I would love to hear more about what your future plans are for Cowork, if you care to share any.
Well, we're celebrating our 8-year anniversary here in Cowork next month, so that's exciting. So we're committed to this community for as long as they'll have us. Again, we're setting records every month over month with the number of businesses that are here, and obviously it's helps to be on a rising tide situation where the number of homes that are and people that are coming to Lakewood Ranch each year is growing year over year. Still probably another 6 to 10 years of growth to go.
Absolutely.
So we're fortunate to be able to be in that scenario, especially when a lot of those people work at home, have businesses, are looking for a place either to hang their hat, send their mail, or possibly, work on a daily basis. And from our nonprofit perspective, I'm most excited about the partnerships we've created with our community pillar nonprofits between the Business Alliance, the Community Foundation, and community activities. And looking forward to doing more of that in the the next 5 to 10 years to go.
Well, I'm excited to see it all happen in front of me as a hometown kid. It's been great to see people like you come in and shake things up for the better and invite young people like myself to be a part of that journey. So,
well, it's been exciting for me to see things like the Young Leaders Alliance grow because, again, when I say the Alliance, what I'm really saying is it started with the YLA. I was a YLA member first, and it was really YLA events that kind of brought me up to the Big Boy Alliance, and where I would meet people that now to this day you see have been chairs of the organization, have been my attorney, have been my real estate broker, have been my accountant. Like these are all people that I've found through the Alliance, my job. So, I think. And it all started with the YLA. So I think the connections and the things that they're doing to grow the organization year over year are obviously things I'm always empowered by and excited to see, see that torch that we've created from 15 years ago continue to grow.
Absolutely. I'm glad to, don't humble brag, have held the torch in the YLA as a chair and to continue the legacy that you guys kind of built was an honor. And I'm really excited to see the future of what's going on there now and as it continues to grow. So,
and I'm proud of you for doing it, Logo. In fact, I never was the chair, believe it or not.
That is
never the chair.
Extremely surprising.
Isn't that amazing?
Actually,
yeah,
very, very.
I got too old before I could have qualified, so then they kicked me out.
You still don't look like it. You got a little salt and pepper, but you're looking good, my man.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the opportunity.
All right.